Hello, and today I will be talking with you about the time period in which I believe was the most impactful in the history of psychological studies. That time period that is the most impactful is the late 19th century, and I believe this for a number of reasons. One big reason I believe this time period to be the most important and influential time period for psychology is because this is the time period in which psychology was declared to be a science. This was heavily due to the experimentation done by William Wundt. Wundt gave the foundation for and proved that psychological experiments can be formally done and can use a control to undergo experiments on mental processes and functions. This idea that an experiment could be done to determine one's mental functions in a way that stayed true to the scientific method was extremely radical at the time and has laid the basis for modern day experimentation as well. Another reason I believe that the late 19th century was the most influential time in psychological studies is because this time period was the time period in which psychology switched from solely philosophical questioning to empiricism, which goes hand in hand with the time period also being responsible for the declaration of psychology as a science. This switch put psychology into the realm of natural sciences and changed the way we thought of the human mind and behaviors from something that is immeasurable to something that is somewhat tangible to understand. This change has stuck with us through modern day psychology and is still influencing the way we think and experiment on the human mind today. Another reason why I believe this time period is the most influential time period is because key schools of thought began to emerge during this time as well. One of them being structuralism, which was founded by William Wundt and later advanced by Edward Titchener. Structuralism focused on the structures of the human mind. It focused on what parts of the human mind could be responsible for what type of action. This idea was extremely sophisticated, especially taking into the account the technology and the social and current issues at that time period. This laid the basis for modern day brain structures and helped to develop the idea that different parts of the brain are responsible for different aspects of mental processes and behaviors. And with the technology we have today, this thought turned into something that has heavy research and backing to it. It was also the time period where functionalism was created by William James. This school of thought emphasized the different functions of mental processes and how those functions help individuals adapt to their environments. This time period led for a lot of studies and issues we still focus on in psychology today, and without this time period, we might not have had these radical ideas. Many of the ideas and thoughts of this time are still such influential parts of psychology today, and we do not even realize that those concepts came from this time period. Yes, there are other influential time periods like the 20th century and the obvious Sigmund Freud that the 20th century held, but I believe the 19th century is the unrecognized influence to what we know and concepts we still tussle and think about today. The 19th century was a booming time period for psychology and laid the basis for our modern day psychology. William Wundt was an extremely huge part of this time period, and that is he's one of the big reasons why I believe that this time period is the most influential. The fact that these ideas are still around is extremely impressive and shows just how radical and sophisticated the ideas of this time actually were. They were way ahead of their time and led into research and studies we still do today. So thank you so much for listening, and